Hello, and welcome to the Tuning In podcast. I'm Dana Evans, your inner voice and emotional support coach. In this podcast, we explore the deep wisdom that lives in our bodies, emotions, and inner voice. Together, we'll shed the layers that no longer serve us, creating space to tap into the flow of life and experience true ease. So, are you ready to join me? Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome back to the Tuning In podcast. I'm excited to be back. I've taken a little bit of a break since releasing the Emotions Decoded audio program. Honestly, y'all, my voice needed a break. Over the course of a couple of weeks, I recorded like 17 audios, and I was also doing the podcast at the same time. And my voice needed a break from all of the recording, but now I am fully rested and excited to be back and to share with you. So today I want to give a little update and share some behind the scenes things that's been going on in my life. I also want to share a few things that I did during the Emotions Decoded recording process that honestly really helped me, that I think will help you as well, especially if you're going through something stressful in your life. And then I also want to talk about the power of a pause and taking a break and what it really looks like to lean into the needs of your body and the requirements of your body and the begging of your body. You know, during the Emotions Decoded program, I really had to dive into my own work because I'm teaching it, right? And I don't sit around preaching what I teach. I'm teaching from embodiment. I'm teaching from what I do, how I use these tools in real life. And it was really powerful during the program while I was recording all these audios to double down on my own work. So let me give you an update. Oh my gosh, what a month it has been. So I started launching Emotions Decoded probably the first week or second week of October. And I went from full on like 3 weeks of launching and creating the program. I did them at the same time, which was necessary this time around. Next time I release Emotions Decoded, it will already be created, except maybe a few bonus audios. I am so proud of this program, everyone. Like, it is such an amazing program. The feedback has been amazing. It really did everything I wanted it to do. So I will be releasing it again. I will be doing another cohort to go through the program again, probably in January. If not, a little secret behind the scenes launch might happen in November. If you're on my email list, you will get access to that. But beyond that, I was really proud of the program, and I spent 3 weeks creating it and launching it at the same time. But then, like, over that time, right as I finished the program, which was and it started on the 18th is when the program actually started for those who joined. We had friends in town that weekend. So October 18th, 19th. And then on October 20th, John and I woke up at like 4 a.m. and I drove him down to Albuquerque. He ran the Albuquerque Marathon. Then we spent the whole day there and spent the night there and had a little overnight in Albuquerque. Hung out there on Monday, came home Monday afternoon. I unpacked and then repacked, left Tuesday morning for a full week in New Hampshire. I spent a week by the lake with my 2 cousins at one of their Airbnbs. It was so beautiful. I hadn't been back to the East Coast in a while. I spent a day in Boston where I went to college and just had some fun memories come up being in Boston again, and just got to spend quality downtime with my 2 cousins who I'm very close with. It was so wonderful. But that was why there was this big push for me energetically to get all these things buttoned up by the 18th, because literally that was it. Like, we had people coming into town, then we were traveling, and then I was going out of town. It was a hard stop to have the whole program created. Turns out that's a really useful tactic for me. to have like a really hard deadline. But then after that week, I did not work at all that week and really just enjoyed quality time. I was minimally online on Instagram. Then I got home on the 29th of October that evening, spent 2 days kind of recovering slash getting ready because then my in-laws came Friday, November 1st through the 4th, and we did so much. They are generators. I think they're generators. Whatever they are, they have serious motor and serious stamina. On Saturday, we spent 7 hours outside doing yard work. John and his dad built a freaking patio in our backyard where we're going to put our fire pit. His mom and I planted bulbs, I planted garlic. I did the most shoveling I've ever done in my life, and that's saying a lot because I shoveled a lot this summer. Moving dirt, making mounds, like basically preparing the whole yard for winter and ultimately spring. That was the most intense. I don't know if I've ever done anything for 7 hours straight in that amount of intensity. And then we chilled on Sunday, and then they left Monday, and John and I were like sapped. We were so tired. Both of us, if we look at it through human design, both of us are non-sacrals. He's a manifester and I'm a projector. We were plugged in to this intense energy source, and we totally pushed ourselves more than we would if it was just us. We were so tired. My body was tired. It was a deep tired. But what I realized, as I did nothing on Tuesday, so Monday I didn't do anything. Tuesday I had nothing to give. Wednesday I went to acupuncture, and it dawned on me that, I'm not just recovering from the weekend with my in-laws, I'm also recovering from all the travel and from spending a week with my cousins, and then from the marathon, and then from having friends in town, and then from creating this huge program that I'd been thinking about for a year and launching that program and releasing it. And it dawned on me that basically I was recovering from a month of big energy. And isn't it funny how we can sometimes be so blind to our own stuff? I mean, I knew I'd done all of that, but it really took sitting in acupuncture and being like, gosh, it's so weird. I'm so tired. For her to reflect back to me, you're not just tired from this one thing. It's this, this whole group of things. So we had that discussion. I really let my body settle because that week, so we got a little bit of snow that Monday, the 4th of November. I went to acupuncture on the 6th, and then a huge snowstorm started coming that afternoon, and Santa Fe got dumped on the 6th and 7th. So last Wednesday and Thursday, we got like a foot of snow. And it was such this beautiful thing of my mind had been wanting to like get over it, like recover so I can get back into it and get back to work and get back into a rhythm and launch my new offer. Like it had all these ideas. But literally nature was like, no, come back, slow down, settle. We can't push forward when we haven't integrated what we just came from. And that was really my lesson of last week, was pause and integrate, pause and integrate. Nature reflected that back to me. My energy reflected that back to me. My body reflected that back to me. And so I spent the week doing not much at all. I read 2 full books, like where I spent almost a whole day on the couch reading. I cooked a little bit. I didn't even grocery shop. We just ate leftovers and food that we just had in the fridge. And it was a very minimal output week. And it really, I just didn't have any output to give. And then it was crazy because then on Friday, I went right into a 3-day bowspring, which is the movement methodology that I use and am trained in. 3-day online workshop where we were doing 2 practices a day. So Monday was a holiday. John and I had a really nice day off and we just relaxed and chilled. And now it's today. It is November 12th. And even telling that and looking at the calendar, I'm like, oh yeah, it's been busy. And you know what's even cooler? Last year at this time, I was really burnt out. I think my adrenals were shot. I was really coming off of a year of prepping and selling our house and moving and then finally settling. And we were like 6 months in our home. And I had that no energy feeling all of last winter, November, December, January, February. And I think my podcast episodes talk about that. Well, I didn't even get back on my podcast until December of last year. I had taken a lot of time off. But it was really fascinating to look at how I felt last week, Monday and Tuesday. It was like that sapped, no motors, no gas in the tank, no gumption, no get up and go energy. I was flatlined. And then already last week, Wednesday, Thursday, I was still really slow, but I could already feel my energy restoring. And to me, what that shows is that this is not an accident. I have done so much over the last year, in particular, this past year, 2024, to restore and care for my body, my adrenals, my nervous system, my emotional well-being. And as I'm saying this, it is 11:11 at 12:11 p.m. Oh, and it just turned to 12:12. I'm seeing 12:12:12. Thank you, aligned numbers. I love you. It really, really has been a year of restoring, recalibrating, and reevaluating how me and my body work together. And at a deeper level. There were a lot of things that came up this year where I realized I thought I'd processed something, I thought I'd integrated something, I thought I was over something, and yet it came back again, and it came back again in a different way. And what I always tell my clients is when that happens, when you're like, wait a second, I thought I already dealt with this. I thought I was over this. And when it comes back later down the line, to me, that's an indicator of it wants to be witnessed and seen and processed and released through the lens of where you are now. I'm in a very different place I am now, physically, literally, right? I'm in New Mexico, not Colorado, than I was a few years ago, but also emotionally, energetically, I'm in a different place. And so when something comes back up to be processed again, it's because it needs it to be processed through the eyes of where you are now, where you're in a more stable place, where you've done more of the work, where you're feeling more connected to yourself. And then you process it at a deeper level and really truly clear the dredges of that and release it. So cool how that happens. And that happened to me a lot this year. It was really interesting to see things reemerge and then release. So this way of being with our bodies, of caring for our nervous systems, processing the emotion, witnessing it, listening to the body, moving with its rhythm, I do believe that that's what has allowed me to recover quicker from a really intense month. Like I said, last year, I felt the way I felt last week for months. And it was so discouraging, I think is one of the words for it. But the reason I was there is because, it was a stressful year and I kept pushing. I kept having to push. And my adrenals were like, no more. We're not doing this anymore. And it's taken me quite a while to recover. But now, not only did I witness that I've recovered quickly from that burnout. Like when I felt that on Monday and Tuesday, my brain was like, oh no. Oh, no, 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 no. We cannot have another winter like this. We cannot have no energy for another 3 months. And there was like a little bit of fear. But because I was able to listen and take that week of slowness, of less output, have the reflections, I could already feel my body shifting. It's like, okay, this isn't forever. It's okay to feel that. It's okay to lean into that occasionally, and it's needed. And just because it comes up again, it doesn't mean it's forever. And I'm saying that to any of you who have gone through this, where you've had those really intense burnout months where you have nothing to give. And then when you feel that similar feeling, you're like, I cannot do this again. And your body might go into fear. I want to remind you of you're not the same person you were then. You're not in the same place you were before. And you have tools and experiences and wisdom that is now at work so that you don't get to the same place you were before. And I am living evidence of that, and I'm really grateful for that. And I'm grateful for the snow that came in. I'm grateful for my acupuncturist who helped reflect that to me. I'm so grateful for my body for restoring and for speaking. And I'm grateful for myself and my mind for being able to listen and follow through on what was going on. So that's been where I've been at the past month. And another thing I wanted to share with you that is along those lines is some of the things I did during the release of the Emotions Decoded program. And even if you don't do the program, by the way, I will put the link to the waitlist in there in case you want to hear more when it comes out again. I'll put the link in there. But as I said, I was creating this program and really doubling down on everything I know about this, everything I've learned, all the wisdom, all of the insights that my inner voice has given me, all of the experiences I've had that have brought me to create this program. It's a very simple program. It's a very easy to digest program. It can be that way because I've gone through these things in so many different ways and so many different layers that I've gotten much better at describing and explaining it, right? It's like the more we go through things, the better we are at explaining it. And so as I was recording and writing these scripts and creating it, I did a couple of things. One is I didn't drink for the 3 weeks that I was releasing the program. And I think maybe I had like 1 or 2 drinks, maybe. But for like 98% of the time, I didn't drink. And that wasn't a mind decision. My mind wasn't like, you're not allowed to do this because it's bad and you have to, whatever. Like, it wasn't a mind story. It was this really deep desire of my body. It was like, we don't have the tolerance right now for substances. We just want to create because I was big output every day. I was so tired every day, but like a good, satisfied tired because I was creating. It was such a time of momentum. But here's what happens. Here's what happens. And I'm sure there's a lot of ways that this happens, but when you take something away that your body is used to on some level, I like to imbibe when I'm celebrating something like, hey, you did a good job today, have a cocktail, right? Or whatever. When I took that away, I wasn't going to have alcohol to celebrate or to commiserate, right? If I was tired and cranky that day, I wasn't going to have it. And if I felt really successful and proud that day, I wasn't going to have it. So by removing that, here is what's fascinating. At the end of every day, you know what I was left with? My emotions. My emotions is what I was left with. And what that meant was I didn't have a tool to avoid them. The other thing, I wasn't spending a lot of time in the afternoons, like after my work day. I wasn't spending a lot of time on social media because I was so sick of being on it during the day because I was promoting and sharing and creating captions. I was like, oh, I can't even look at my phone, right? So it's like, remove my phone. I removed alcohol. And my emotions is what I was left with at the end of the day. And that was really uncomfortable. And here I am creating a course about emotions and like annoyed that they're there at the end of the day. But it was so beautiful for me because I was literally creating content and resources that I used each day for myself. So I did my breathing practices. I did my stop, look, and listen. I did the Sophia sessions, which I've shared about with Bella Lively. And I really spent a lot of time releasing emotion. And so I just wanted to offer that to you as well of, oftentimes, if we've had a hard day, if we've had a stressful day, like we want to turn to the thing that's going to take us out of the pain. And there is a time and place for that. But there's also a time and place for leaning into the discomfort. leaning into the emotions and saying, you know what? I know I'd rather have a drink right now. I know I'd rather just mindlessly watch Love is Blind. I don't watch that show, but I hear a lot of people talk about it. Or I want us to just like blindly scroll through Instagram. I do all of those things in some capacity. But it was really powerful during this launch to say, no, I'm holding a mirror up to myself and I'm going to not avoid, I'm going to lean in. And the shifts that it had for me were really valuable. And I felt it, and I felt different every day. And so I just want to put that out there too. The path of least resistance is the path of least resistance for a reason. And it can feel really good. And there's a time and place where like we just need to follow that flow and just check out. And I'm actually an advocate for that. And there's a time, I know you know when that is, where it's like, nope, I got to go into this. Because if I keep avoiding it, it's going to keep popping up in different ways, and it's going to keep knocking on the door until I fully pause and listen to it and witness it. You may or may not know, but when launching a program that you've created, y'all, it's hard. I'm just going to be really honest with you. At least for me, still, it's hard. It feels like I am pouring my heart and soul into something and like serving it to people on a platter to be like rejected or accepted. But it feels so vulnerable, and it brings up all of your insecurities, all of your fears, all of your doubts, all of your freaking demons come out during these programs, and all of your emotional triggers. You know, you're reactive. It's like, you know, God forbid John had, you know, say something slightly questioning anything, and my whole body went into like reaction mode, and I'd have to quell that. I have to go into that. So as painful as it is, I also know, and I recognize this, of it's also bringing up all the uncomfortable things so that they can be processed in the place where I am now, like I said earlier. So that is something for you to take away and for you to ponder of when I'm in a stressful time, what happens if I lean into the triggers and deal with them versus putting them off until I'm less stressed, because that doesn't always happen. And like last week, I wasn't stressed, but let me tell you, I did not want to deal with any emotional fallout from the previous month. I was so glad I dealt with it on the fly, because last week I just wanted to read my books and chill, and I was able to do that. I didn't really have almost any charges come, which was great. It doesn't mean they won't, but I didn't really have any come up. So I wanted to share that with you, because sometimes we need that reminder of, yes, I have two choices. No, there isn't a right and a wrong choice. And there is a time when it's time. And when it's time, you know it's time. And that's the time to lean into it. So with that, the last thing I want to say is we're entering into a new season. So the time change also happened here last week. And so now it's dark earlier. I'm going to bed earlier. You may be too. And other things are shifting. I'm waking up earlier. And so this is a time, I just sent an email about this, to really lean into your body's rhythms. What is, with a shift of season, with a palpable shift in light and timing of the day, you get to ask yourself, what am I trying to hold on to from the last season and trying to force and carry into this new season? Just like me last week, I was like, I want to go back into planning and work mode. My mind wanted that. And my body was like, no, man, this is the time to let the seeds rest. Like I planted the bulbs. It's not time to dig the bulbs up and to force them to grow. They have to root down before they can grow up. You have to integrate and go into the darkness before you can rise up and shine into the lightness. We have to have roots. We have to have that stable ground to build from. And truly, truly, winter is the time for that. And I know we're not in winter yet, but we're in this late fall season where we start to notice these bigger changes. And I want you to ask yourself, do I feel the changes? And what is my body doing? And here's some examples. Like, are you expecting your body to work out on the same schedule it did in the summer? Guess what? Maybe it doesn't feel good anymore. Maybe you're called to do a different type of workout. Maybe you don't have the stamina that you did in the summer. That's okay. Are you trying to just eat, quote unquote healthy and have light meals and salads still because it's the right thing to do? I'm using a lot of air quotes here. Maybe this is the time where your body's wanting something heartier. Like, oh my gosh, I just found a recipe that I'm going to make this week for French onion meatballs. What the what? I'll put the link in the show notes. I don't even know, but they're going to be delicious. With Gruyere cheese. I can't say that word. Caramelized onions. What? It's so hearty. It's going to be so good. Like meats, bone broth, butter, cheese, beans, pasta, root vegetables, man. What does your body actually want? I started putting cream in my coffee. I was like, oh, I want cream. I want cream and maple syrup in my coffee. So I bought heavy cream this week. It's okay to change your routine. It's okay to not perform at the same level that you do at the height of summer and early fall. It's okay to slow down a little bit. It's okay to have less output this time of year. And your mind might be fighting all of that. But let's ask your body of like, what wants to shift? What routines do you want? I usually start oil pulling in the winter. I like to take more baths. There's just different things that I crave. And I'd love to know what you crave too, because this is the time to let your body truly guide. And this is the time to follow that rhythm and trust your inner rhythm, because there is also an outer rhythm. And there are people, I see them, who are really inspired this time of year and want to push and do more and push through to the end of the year. And that's great. You might be one of them. You might be like, no, this is the time I turn on and go forward. And like, I love like burning through winter. And that's really beautiful if that's your natural rhythm. But I know there's probably more of us who want to slow down, but can't because they feel so caught up in the other pulsation, the collective energy of holiday time, Christmas time, shopping, consumption, doing more, being busy, showing up, keeping things up as you move through this season, all the way as you roll into this high energy, pushing through into 2025 with new goals and new ideas and the best year of your life. And there's this intensity that if we're not grounded, if our feet are not on the ground firmly planted in our own body's rhythm, you'll get caught up in that like a tumbleweed in the wind. So find your own roots. Trust the rhythms of your body and trust that there is truth and wisdom to the adage of slow down to speed up. And so for you, this might be the time where you're starting to downshift. Like we're coming out of fifth gear into fourth gear. The solstice, you might move into third gear and you might have some time of deep quiet. And it's okay to disappear for a little bit. I didn't do this intentionally, but the last 2 weeks, I was off Instagram and this wasn't my mind. My mind wasn't like, now I need to be off Instagram. If anything, my mind was like, you got to keep up this momentum. But I was like, I just can't. And I deleted the app from my phone. I just haven't been on except a couple times checking on my computer. And it felt so good also because it was like during the election and Halloween and the time change. And there was like just a lot of intensity going on. That's not why I deleted it. But in hindsight, I'm so glad that I just disappeared for a little bit because I didn't want to be plugged into the collective energy. I had just been on such a push of my own that I couldn't be caught up in all of that. And a lot of people I was talking to, they're like, yeah, I just can't stop consuming it. I'm like, well, yeah, because that feeds the pain body, right? So we have this pain body. Eckhart Tolle talks about this. And that's where we have all of our triggers, our emotional charges. It's a lot of what we do is we clear this pain body. But think of the pain body like your brain craving sugar. And it craves the pain. It craves to see the problems. It craves those little things that push our buttons so we can be outraged. But all of that is energy output. These are energy leaks. We don't always have to be plugged into that collective energy. Sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is to unplug, whether that's unplugging from the news, unplugging from social media. I'm unplugging right now. Back in January, I did a financial fast. I did a whole podcast episode about it, which I will link in the show notes. But I'm doing another one, and what that means for me is that I am not buying anything online for the month of November. I didn't think this one through. This is a tough time to not buy online. Oh my God, there's so many sales and so many offers and Black Friday and all this stuff. But what I realized was I didn't want to contribute to that collective energy this month. And it might tumble, to some extent into December. I'm like, I need to unplug from this. I need to stop consuming in that way for a little while, just like I didn't consume Instagram for 2 weeks. And it was hard. I plugged in today because I wanted to post this poem that I shared on my email list called Thank You Body. So I actually created a reel, but I'm like, I don't freaking want to be on Instagram right now. Just checking in with yourself. Where are your roots? Where is your equilibrium? And what is truly aligned best and right for you right now? And if that means unplugging from anything, you are allowed to do that. You are allowed to do that. It is not your responsibility to be plugged in. It is not your responsibility to feed the pain body and the outrage and the frustration and to buy into that and then to buy, right, out of the need to regulate yourself because you're so plugged in and frustrated. I'll tell you, when I'm not on Instagram, it is a lot easier to not buy online because it's not triggering me. It's not selling to me. It's not a dopamine hit. I could talk on and on about this. It's my own behavior that I'm really witnessing, but for you, that could be something else. So just remember that your responsibility is you. And is your emotional health and regulating your own body and having the courage to find the rhythm that is best and right for you and unplug from anything that is not. You can always plug back in. In fact, it's hard to stay unplugged for too long, but to unplug in whatever way that is requiring and your body is asking of you is one of the most courageous, self-preserving things you can do. And so as we enter this season, I invite you to try that on and to see what that feels like. And gosh darn it, to see what emotions it brings up when you make that declaration for yourself, because it will bring stuff up. And when it does, you can always come back to the tools we teach here. So with that, thank you as always for listening. I'm happy to be back here, but I will have a slower pace this winter. I have a yummy, oh my God, I'm so excited. I'm putting together a little something. So stay tuned. I was feeling called to create a little winter wellness care kit. I'm so excited about it, but it's not here yet, but that's what I'll be doing this winter. Otherwise, my pace is going to slow down. I'm not going into a push. My podcast episodes may be weekly. They may come a little less regularly, and I'm going to anchor into my own groundedness, my own darkness, and really let my own roots grow. And I invite you to do that with me. And I will have a way for us to do that together, not only just for you, but to hold myself accountable. Just like the Emotions Decoded audio program helped me double down and be accountable for my own emotional hygiene, this is going to help me and you double down and be accountable for your own rhythm, your own pace, and leaning into the gifts that this season has to offer. So stay tuned. You can always get on the Vitamin D newsletter if you want to get this information via email. And otherwise, I will see you next week on the Tuning In podcast. Thank you for joining me in another episode of the Tuning In podcast. If you loved this episode, please rate and review it or share it with a friend. If you want to go deeper into the realm of emotions and learn the language of your body, check out my audio course, Emotions Decoded, at alignful.com/audio. As always, you can follow along with my journey on Instagram at Dana_Evans. See you next week.